Sunday we had the Super Bowl. You know what we've got now? We've got the Hindsight Bowl. It is the Hindsight Bowl. They should have done something different in the Super Bowl game. This is the biggest game of the year for people that cover the NFL. It is the Hindsight Bowl, and taking center stage is, should the 49ers have elected to kick in overtime and not receive the ball first? Because, man, oh, man, we got people that are regretting the decision for Kyle Shanahan, even though they're not Kyle Shanahan. Who you guys got in the Hindsight Bowl?
Can I ask this question? Like, why do we feel like that would have ultimately changed the outcome of the game? Is it purely the speculation that if you know what the other team does, then you have a better opportunity because you have 4 downs to one-up them?
Basically.
Is that basically what the thought is?
That would be my guess.
I think the interesting thing about it is, and I guess maybe it comes from Patrick Mahomes, who said, hey, if the Niners would have scored a TD on their opening drive, we would have went for 2. So if they would have scored a TD to match it, they would have gone for 2 to end it.
Which would have been awesome, by the way.
It would have been, but it also would have kind of be like, okay, it's kind of interesting.
It's no different than if we would sit here and be questioning Kyle Shanahan, electing to take the ball. Like,
well,
if they don't get that
conversation's about,
right?
Yeah.
If they don't get that 2-point conversion, you say, why'd you go for 2?
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's always going to be a question.
Here's what I can't stand about everything with this conversation is, hindsight is always 20/20. But that's not how decisions are made.
Not for everybody.
Well, maybe not. But in most cases, like, people look back and they're like, no, yeah, this is what they should have done. It's like, well, it's easy to say that now because it didn't work out. Like, I've always said this, like, that's what's called resulting. When you look at the outcome of something and you're allowing that to factor into, your decision on why you did or did not do something, it's called resulting. That's not how you make decisions. Like, do we think Kyle Shanahan, when the overtime scenario came up, he obviously was fully aware. I could care less if Eric Armstead or Kyle Juszczyk didn't know what the overtime rules were. Like, it doesn't matter. Does that change how they're going to execute a play? Does it change Kyle Juszczyk trying to score a touchdown or Eric Armstead trying to stop a touchdown? No. That doesn't matter. That those two did or did not know what they were doing in overtime. Okay? It's only about the execution of the plays that they're asked to run. And the analytics department in San Francisco is probably second to none. Not only across football, but all of football. Like the soccer team they own, the NFL franchise obviously they have. That's some of the smartest front office folks you will find. So I am sure their analytics department and their rationale for what they did and why they did it is much stronger than most in the NFL. And so if you think that Kyle Shanahan went into that drive thinking, we're not expecting to score, so we're a little bit concerned about the downside risk of us taking the ball and only getting a field goal. He was fully expecting them to go down and score and then probably Kansas City to match. So they had the football third, which gave them an opportunity for sudden death to go kick a field goal. And by the way, Patrick Mahomes' comments saying in overtime that the Chiefs would have gone for 2 if the Niners had scored a TD, that's assuming that they get the ball, drive down, score a TD, is because he knows that there was a chance that if the 49ers got the ball third, they probably would have run down to win the game with a field goal or a touchdown. So it only kind of proves that point of, there's value in obviously, having the ball first to go score to then dictate what's going to happen with Kansas City and then have the ball again for a third time in sudden death. The fact that people are making such a big deal about this, I'm like, it's not like we've seen this a ton, for starters. But 2, if it had worked out, no one would be questioning them taking the ball first.
It was a defensive struggle, and San Francisco's defense was holding up all game except for the final quarter. And so if you're saying, okay, we had one or two, questionable defensive sets, but I believe in our defense, just like I believe in my offense, you put points on the board. They were going to have to drive the length of the field. Now, everybody's going to say, it's Patrick Mahomes, it's Patrick Mahomes. Your defense was playing pretty well. So if you're trusting your defense, at the least, you're like, all right, they might get 3 too. We got 3 points, play defense. They might not get 3 at all. I mean, they might not even make it far enough to have to, where they're able to get 3 points. So, I mean, I still think there's the element that people have to take into consideration that, they do have to play football. There are plays that have to take place. So for them to be able to drive it all the way down the field, put themselves in position to get that touchdown, I mean, that's football. You can't sit there and say that's a questionable decision and saying that he strategically made a decision. And when he explained it, it was sound reasoning. He wanted to have the ball last when it was first point score or first point scored win the game. Like that. I mean, it's pretty simple to me. I don't even feel why does he need to justify the decision? And that's crazy because Kyle Shanahan, as you mentioned, and his staff, they're some of the brightest minds in the game. So to be questioning that, it's like, all right, people question Dan Campbell for not taking the field goals. They're probably right, but in the end, that's what Dan Campbell wanted to do. And I don't understand now why there's so much, it's seemingly so much scrutiny on what decision a coach is making in terms of certain situations. If that coach is going to make the situation, that's what he's getting paid to do, is to make the situation or make the call in the situation. That's why it's called situational football. So I don't know what the big stink about it is.
So, the Kyle Shanahan decision to go for it on 4th down when he did that, and then George Kittle caught it and they picked up the first down. They were in field goal range, tight game.
Right.
That's a ballsy call. Had he not made that, he was going to be second guessed. You don't hear crap about that play because he went for it, he made it, and
if
it
Nick
looked good.
Bosa stays home, they win the game.
Hey, CBR, man.
CBR.
CBR.
Hell yeah.
Cut back, boot,
Or if
stay
Fred
at
Warner
home.
was there. If Fred Warner was in that position, he would have made the play.
You're funny as hell for that.
Bro, you've loved
guy.
on Fred Warner. You love those linebackers.
God, he's dope. He's dope. And he was covering Kittle on that. Not Kelsey. He was covering Kelsey on that play. CBR.
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 I still go back to I thought the most interesting sequence was the 3rd and 4 because they had Kansas City on the ropes. The 3rd and 4 where Trent McDuffie blitzed off the edge, batted the pass down. There's a number of things that, again, I think it allowed Kansas City to have the opportunity to come back, get the ball back, drive down the field, and be able to kick a field goal to take in the overtime. The first thing is San Francisco stopped the clock. They voluntarily, by choosing to throw the football in that spot, stopped the clock. So instead of running the football there, which you would assure yourselves the fact that Kansas City had to take a timeout, which means they only would have had one timeout in that instance, probably would have played a result in the ensuing drive. The other thing I would say is if you look at the way San Francisco was running the football in that drive, there was a decent chance that they were going to at least get positive yards out of it.
They were picking up 6 yards a clip, it seemed like, every time they gave it to McCaffrey.
Yeah. I mean, at least 3 yards. Right? I mean, on that drive earlier in it, you're sitting there going, okay, they had I think he had a 3-yard gain, a 5-yard gain, but in the 3rd, 4th quarter, they were having success running the football. I believe they had Debo run the football in that spot too, which sometimes they throw in some wrinkles. They have, him run the football in some of those unique spots. So the fact that I think it was 2:45 left, if I'm not mistaken. All right, it was 2nd and 5. They threw the ball twice. Now, granted, they completed it to Kittle for no gain. It was a great play by Trent McDuffie. But then the ensuing play after the 2-minute warning, they ended up throwing on 3rd and 5, clock stop. It took 3 seconds off the clock. So let's just take it takes 3 seconds off the clock, 1:57, and then Jake Moody ends up kicking the field goal. But you still have, only one timeout with that much time you're working with. I think most people would look at that scenario and say, like everyone else when Mahomes got the ball, they're going to go down and score. But the reality is, Kansas City needed to have that second timeout based on how the next drive went. it wasn't like that next drive was that smooth, especially once they got around midfield. They started having a hard time kind of figuring some stuff out. But again, hindsight's always 20/20.
In real time on the text chain, we were texting during that drive, the San Fran's final drive in regulation. And
San Fran's going to win this.
Yeah, they're going to bleed the clock out. They're going to get a first down and bleed the clock out. And then that sort of changed everything. They basically gave Patrick Mahomes 2 opportunities after settling for field goals to go down and win the game.
Yeah.
Like, it's just and that's why when people are having the discussion about what cost the 49ers the game, I know it's Patrick Mahomes. I mean, we can get buried in the weeds with should he done this, the analytics, the all that. Man, it's Patrick Mahomes.